Okay, and I also noticed there are a bunch of questions. We'll go ahead and answer those at the end of my part of the presentation. So let me go ahead and talk specifically about the AireLink 60, some of its features, its functionality, and again at the end we'll talk about and respond to the questions that have come up during John's part of the presentation. So what I wanted to do on the AireLink 60 is to really show you a little bit more about how the product is designed for user features, functions, and installers for that matter. So one of the things that LightPointe has been known for really since the beginning is LEDs on the rear of the unit that help doing the installation as well as configuration with or without network availability. In this case, I wanted to kind of go over the different ports that we have available. Some of the features that we built into this system I think will benefit a lot of customers. So the first thing that we did is we built in a combo port, similar to the combo ports that you'll find on switches in networks today, where you've got an RJ or SFP option. It's not a both, it's an either or, but it's right there in the system. It's a hot swappable SFP, or you can use an RJ45. We also have built the system around the 802.3 AT Power over Ethernet standard. So you can go ahead and run your cable up for the power, and that's also where you get your management. It's important to understand that we are an out-of-band management solution for this product that is different than some of our other products, and we can talk about that. But for this product, specifically the AireLink 60, it is an out-of-band management, and power over Ethernet is the primary. And then you have your data. So you'll have at least a 2-cable solution for monitoring and for the data. I'm going to go back here briefly and let you know that we also have what's called a kind of an auxiliary power. And so what this allows you to do is run 48 volt directly, and it is plus minus 48. So the system has the ability to handle both, either plus or minus 48 volt. So you can run this on DC power alone. You can run it on PoE. It depends on what is best for your particular situation. We also have a number of LEDs on the unit itself. When the unit is powered on, for the first time, it goes through its boot sequence. It takes about just short of 3 minutes to go ahead and boot up completely. When it's booting, you will see the power LED blink. Once it is done, the power LED is on. It will automatically, out of the box, be set up for alignment mode. And you can see that it's in alignment mode because that LED is glowing brightly to tell you it's in alignment mode. The RF on is an indicator that the system is transmitting its local oscillator or its test signal. In this particular case, I don't have RF sync because in this unit I'm not pointing at another unit. This is a test unit in the laboratory. So if you were pointing at another unit, then you would have RF sync. These units are, unlike our FSO, if you're familiar with that, there is a high and a low, just like in other millimeter wave products. So you need to pair up one high with one low. Now, we initially launched this with a basic set of capabilities, and we have since added recently, in the latest software update, a lot of new changes. Now the Bluetooth monitoring is actually a hardware change to the board, so we did have to do a board spin to get Bluetooth monitoring. So unfortunately on customers who purchased their units last year, Bluetooth monitoring will not be available. However, anybody who has purchased their units since January of this year will have Bluetooth monitoring built into the system. We also in the software have put in some loopback testing and verification. I'll talk about that more. And performance statistics that are maintained on the unit, and I'll show you some information on that also. And then last, but certainly not least, is AES encryption. And this is going to give you hitless, full line speed, full duplex operation. You are not going to lose any bandwidth because of the encryption algorithm that is used. And we'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit more as we go through this, but I did want to mention it. Also, because of some of the restrictions regarding encryption as we ship globally, we do need to make sure that the AES encryption, or you need to make sure if you want it that you put that on your purchase order at the time. We cannot upgrade over the air or through software AES encryption. We are working through the local legal requirements, and as of right now, we are not able to upgrade any system to AES if it did not have AES ordered originally. So that is important to understand, that if you want AES, make sure your customer makes that choice initially. Okay, so Bluetooth monitoring, right? This is what we have built into the systems that allow you to use an application available through the Google Play Store. It is an Android-only application at this time. And what you can do is go to the App Store on anybody that is running KitKat or above on their software, and you can download the LightPointe Bluetooth tool, BLE meaning Bluetooth Low Energy tool. And once you've downloaded the application, you'll then be able to monitor the units. And these are some screenshots from my actual phone. I'm an Android user, and you can see on the left-hand side, this is from our internal. So I stood in the hallway and I ran the program, and as you can see, we have a lot of AireLink 60s in our building. And with that particular situation, you can see that I've got multiple AireLinks that I can log into. You can only log into one at a time, but you could bounce around between them. It's also important to know, and let me see if I can kind of show you with my mouse here. When you see this AireLink 60 and this minus 88 dBm, for instance, that's an indication of the Bluetooth signal strength, not the link signal strength. This is just the signal strength between you, your phone, and the unit in question. So sometimes when you're standing next to a unit, it's very obvious because it will have a significantly higher Bluetooth link, and you'll know which one to pick. Once you've chosen your AireLink, you will need to enter a password in order to link up. In our case, the default password is 400000. That will then launch you into the ability to click on and look at the various statistics available from the system. Primarily, you have system, radio, and network. Those are the three that will be available. And then giving you more screenshots. Here's what the system looks like. Here's the various piece parts you can see. This would be great if you had a question. You could take a screenshot and then contact me, and we can go through and let you know what you're seeing and what's going on. And this will tell me which software you're running, which firmware you have, etc., as well as the serial number of the unit. The one that seems to be the most popular with customers right now is the radio option. And this is great because if you are doing your installation and for some reason you either don't have your voltmeter isn't working, something's wrong, you can log into the unit and you can actually see the current RSSI. You can see if you're in alignment mode or data mode. You can see what modulation scheme you're in. And this is really a great option and for someone who is either verifying a current situation or doing a new installation. And then the last thing that you can see is the network IP address. Now, of course, for multiple units like I have in the network, if I'm not sure which one I plugged into, I can click on it, I can log into it and go, oh, this is, in this case, this is .118. Oop, that's not the one I wanted, and I can go back and find the one that I do want, or verify that the one that I'm looking at is really the one that I'm trying to get information on. I want to just go over, because this is actually available in other presentations about the web browser, but I do want to focus in on the new features that we have. So I will go through quickly the ones that have been done previously. The first tab is the system view. Again, gives you the serial number, and you can add or change a location and or a contact. Next would be the RF link. Here is where you would change the mode. Once you have the system set aligned and you're happy with the alignment, you need to change both units from alignment mode into data mode. You do that here on this screen. You need to go down to the bottom. You click on the edit button, and the edit button is right here. That will allow you to then change the mode from alignment to data. You'll then apply, and then you'll get your pop-up boxes that talk about setting, confirming it and saving that change. The next thing is information that is not changeable by the gray coding, but there are things that you can change, such as the transmit power. So if you are installing this unit or any of our AireLink 60 units in a close distance, and you are reaching saturation on your RSSI level, rather than trying to offset the installation to take it out of saturation, you can change from standard mode to short or to very short, in which cases you can drop 6 to 12 dB, depending on your choice, in output power. And that is a big help for doing close distance installations. You can also turn off ACM if you wish to. I don't necessarily recommend that, but it does have an option, and you can force it into a specific modulation. That means, of course, that if the signal strength were to drop below the threshold for that particular modulation, you would then lose your link, which is why we prefer that you leave it in ACM enabled and allow the modulations to fluctuate as required. Nothing too exciting here on the port status. You can click on either one and you can verify whether you have link and traffic on either the management or the data port, depending on which data port you're using. In the management tab, it's where you're able to click on the edit button, and you're able to actually then put the unit, you're able to change the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. Of course, you're at the management VLAN. This is not the data VLAN. This is the VLAN setting for the management. And again, this is an out-of-band management. You're also able to here put the units into loopback if you wish to. So we have two different loopback. So you can put the loopback mode is disabled, obviously. But you can have two choices. You can put it into a local loopback to verify that your cabling is functioning properly, or you can put it into remote loopback, so that way you can verify that the link is functioning. So in both cases, it allows you to then determine if you have a valid link without necessarily having to go up on the roof. Just a nice way to verify everything. You also have the ability to do MAC swapping. And as you can see here, it's letting you know that you can turn this on or off depending on how you want to set up your testing. And you can also change the timeout to time frame, which will then turn the loopback back off. Statistics, we have an RMON counter. You can see the various counters that we are looking at. Obviously, if we see a lot of RX errors on the RF link, that means that you've got some sort of interference or saturation issue going on. Otherwise, it's pretty much just a packet counter. So the next thing we have is performance. This is new for LightPointe in general. We've always had kind of a statistics page for like our FSO AirBridge products and for our AirBeam and even the original AireLink, but now we've got the ability for you to go ahead and have the unit store on board data regarding link quality, RSSI information. And this is great because we all want to know, okay, well, how's it been performing over time? This is not going to give you years worth of information. You basically have about 10,000 points to store. So depending on how frequently you are capturing that data will determine how many days or hours or months worth of information are going to be stored on the unit. Because they are stored on the unit, they are not stored in a non-volatile RAM position. They are just stored on the board. If this unit were to be power cycled, the data would be lost. So if you've been storing data and then you have a power outage, the information will not be there. If that is important to you, then I recommend that you use SNMP monitoring and you monitor the RSSI through your SNMP, your network, software network management, in order to be able to maintain a longer time frame. But this is great if you want to see how the unit's been performing over the last, say, week or day or whatever the time period you want is. You have your read-only and write-only communities. You can set those here and change them if you want to change this from public and private. Just make sure when you do so that you're aware that that's going to be a permanent change and that you'll have to make sure that you have that set to whatever you have your SNMP read-only and write-only community set to. We will also supply you a CD-ROM with every system. On that CD-ROM you will find a MIB library. If for some reason you lose the CD-ROM or you can't find it or you need the MIB library, please feel free to contact me and I will send you. It's a small file, but you will need our custom MIBs to load into your SNMP software package. We do have the ability through TFTP servers to give you the software, update the software. So if there are updates or upgrades to the software, you can do that here through the TFTP. You will need to download your own TFTP server. There's a number of them that are either free or low cost on the internet that work very well. We'll send you the files and then you can go ahead and upload the new software. Now here's in the administration is where we put information regarding our NTP server, NTP synchronization. You can find an NTP server IP address and use that to go ahead and set your time and day. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can disable it. You can also change the user password. So if you don't want it to be admin, make it whatever makes you happy. For the AES encryption, if it is loaded originally on the systems, this is where you would go ahead and enter the code. So you would hit edit and then you would go ahead and you would enter the encryption code. So you need to enter 64 hex characters. And so I recommend that you kind of put that in someplace and then do kind of a copy and paste. Obviously it's easy to fat finger when you're doing 64 characters to make a mistake. So you want to make sure you confirm that before you save it. But this is where you would go ahead and enable the AES encryption and you would enter your encryption key. The same is for Bluetooth. If you want to make sure your Bluetooth is secure and that, now again at this point the Bluetooth is a monitoring only, so if someone were to log into it through the Bluetooth monitoring on their phone or tablet, there's nothing they can do to the unit other than to observe it. So, but if that is something you want to put private, you can go ahead and change the Bluetooth code here. It's still 4 digits, but you can make it whatever 4 digits you want. So John and the sales team have put together a promotion that's going through the end of March, and it is a free Android tablet with every system purchased. Let me see if I can do a little turn on here, if it'll let me get my webcam. Alright, so it's a nice 7-inch tablet, full color, and that is included and it will run. It's running the appropriate software for the Bluetooth application. And I wanted to also kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. This is on a cell phone that we use here in the office. Again, you can see the Bluetooth capabilities. You can see the number of Bluetooth products that are around. Let me see if it'll let me click here. Reload the services. And then you can log into your units. It's hard to do with one hand when I'm talking and staring at the screen at the same time. So it's a nice little handy software package. We're getting a lot of positive reviews from customers that they are happy to be able to log in to the units without having to necessarily go and get a ladder. They can just kind of stand nearby and get the information if for some reason they're not able to log in through the website, through the web browser. So trying to keep us on a fairly timely fashion, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up on my end now so that we can look at the number of questions that have come in and try and answer those as quickly as possible. So here you can see sales at LightPointe. Again, my name is Brian Petersill. I'm at tech support at lightpointe.com. Feel free to email me questions you have. Feel free to contact me during the pre or even during the installation process if you are curious. Obviously, every product has its own set of little idiosyncrasies that if you've not done a lot of our LightPointe installs, that you may go, hey, I don't understand what's happening. Just feel free to contact me. I'm here to help you. So, John, are you still there?
I sure am. Thanks, Brian. That was really good. So we've got quite a few questions here. I guess maybe the best way to do it is I'll just read off, Brian, let you answer it. Let's see. So there's a question here about ETSI regulation, the use of 60 gigahertz for a maximum of 500 meters. I'm not aware of anything as far as limitations as far as distance goes, the ETSI. Everything is regulated by the antenna power and the power of the radios, but we do have these radios have compliance to go up to a mile, and so I hope that answers that question. Can you combine radios to get higher throughput? And Brian, why don't you talk about that? I already did my presentation, but I'll let you do it from your end.
So yes, you can combine radios. So you can do it in a couple of ways. You can use our dual pole adapter, which allows you to put two radios attached to a single 1 or 2 foot antenna, and then you would run two sets of cables, so one for each of the, as we refer to it, the outdoor unit. So each ODU would get its own set of cabling. You would run that down into the same switch, and then you would use like a link aggregation or an ether channel or some other protocol that your switch would have that would allow you to technically combine them into a 2 gig stream, so 2 gig full duplex. That would be the best way to combine to get the higher throughput.
Okay, and next question is, do you have products that can do more than 1.25 gigabits?
So the answer to that is yes, in the 70 and 80 gigahertz frequency. We do have a 2.5 gig product. What that does is it comes with a multiplexer so that you would have you'd combine the two 1 gig streams down at your network side of things and then run a single fiber up to the unit to a single ODU, and that ODU would then transmit full duplex. We call it 2.5 gig, but it's basically 2 gigabits Ethernet over a single antenna, over a single ODU, over a single fiber with a single power source.
Here's a question, what is the reliability? I think the answer is, I think we've answered that with the different levels of modulation in there as far as the AL60 goes. And on the FSO side, you're looking at the hybrid switch allowing you to have your 5 nines connectivity between the RF and the FSO. You mentioned a product that goes 10 kilometers. How much throughput do you get at that? Well, again, at any distance that we talked about today in the presentation with all our products, you're getting full duplex gig. It's not cut in half like other vendors may state. It is full duplex. So
Yeah, I would say that at the 10 kilometers, right, the further out you go, the lower your fade margin. So we're talking about our 70 and 80 systems at that distance. And when you get out to
yep.
10 kilometers, your bandwidth is still full gigabit throughput. The difference is your fade margin will be lower. That's all. So instead of having maybe 30 dB of fade margin, you have 10 dB of fade margin. But it's an option to let you push the distances if that's what you need.
Here's a question. Looks like regarded to the laser products, in regards to weather, snow and rain fade, that sort of thing.
Okay. So everything is based on availability and visibility when it comes to the laser products. So typically snow isn't that bad for us. Rain is not that bad. Fog is the one that we always want to be the most concerned with when you're talking about weather. But in all those cases and all those instances, those were what really brought us to the hybrid option. So that way you're having gigabit throughput, say 99.99% of the time, but when you do have that massive snowstorm, or you do have that massive rainstorm, or you do have a humongous fog bank that rolls in, it will then fail over to an RF signal that is not affected by those weather. Now you won't get the same throughput. We do have on that flow control is enabled, so your switch will know that, hey, my throughput's being throttled back, but you will still have a significant lifeline to keep the link up and running until the weather pattern moves on and the system is able to run back over the FSO. And that is all done seamlessly within the unit. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to touch anything. It will happen automatically. And as John mentioned, we do run some simulation demonstrations on our YouTube channel. You'll find some demonstrations of that hybrid option.
And this relates to the next question, which basically I think you already covered it as far as the failover to RF as FSO systems. You can also add it to our AirBeam systems as well. What exactly is the Bluetooth monitoring? I think you covered that after this question was posted. Will it enable you to log in to the radio via Bluetooth?
For visibility, yes. I mean, you'll be able to monitor what many of the statistics that you see in the web browser, you'll be able to see through the Bluetooth functionality, as I showed with different screenshots. However, you won't be able to actually change anything. So you won't be able to change the modulation status. You'll just be able to monitor what the modulation status is. Same thing with the IP address. You'll be able to see the IP address, but you can't change the IP address through the Bluetooth.
Right, it's just meant for monitoring. You don't see the data, you don't see you can't make any changes, that sort of thing.
Correct.
Will the presentation be available for viewing at a later date?
So on this one, I will have to say that I've recorded my portion of it, but I don't believe that I recorded your portion, John.
Yeah, I forgot to hit the button, sorry.
So my portion and all of these questions are, yes, available, will be available later.
Okay. My bad. All right, and latency, 1 mile, I guess, versus 3 miles?
Latency really isn't, it depends on which product you're talking about, obviously as distance goes on, but you're talking in the realm of, nanoseconds when it comes to over the air. We don't really see on the FSO, you're looking at picoseconds at the 1 mile. We don't have a 3 mile option. On the ULL products, you're talking about, like John said, speed of light. So, you're talking about nanoseconds getting across a 1 mile versus a 3 mile. It's not that much different over the air speed. any of the delays are typically within the processing from the converting it from an Ethernet signal into the over-the-air signal, and that is going to be even on the new AireLink 60, which has a lot of processing that takes place. You're still looking at like 60 microseconds is the latency, well under a millisecond.
Okay, and here's a question. For the purpose of research, is there any chance to modify the RF link parameters even more, i.e. try different modulation schemes that are not currently implemented by LightPointe? Also, can you control the AL60 via MATLAB? Thank you.
I would say that the answer to that is no. We do not have and do not open up our system to it to be changed and to have modulation schemes altered by someone other than us. So it's locked down. That's part of the intellectual property. So I'm sorry, but the answer would be no.
So here's a question. I'll take average cost of the AireLink 60 and the AirBridge FSO. AirBridge FSO starts at about $6,000 for a full duplex link. Includes mounts, link heads, high-power PoEs, and then you can add licenses, that sort of thing, for higher bandwidths. For the AireLink 60, your average cost MSRP, you're looking at typically for a complete link around $8,000, but you do have the ability to, through the Excel sheet that we have, to basically build the system that you want. So if you've got certain parts that you already have or you utilize in your particular operation, you can actually lower the cost quite a bit on that. So that's something you need to talk to the sales director about individually. And we can configure an appropriate system, but they're very affordable, and it's the way we've configured the systems now. They're very flexible, so you can actually just buy the parts or pieces that you need for a particular application or the complete system. And I think this is the last question. Does the RF failover product require two antennas, or will it be done over the same antenna?
It is a secondary antenna. So you have your primary antenna, and then you have a bolt-on secondary radio antenna. It's an option you can order after the fact. So if you didn't order your AireBridge with the high bridge option, you can order it later and have it bolted on underneath. Same thing goes with the AirBeam 7080. If you wanted to, you could get, and those are the only two that have the ability to have the backup RF, is the AireBridge product in lasers and the AirBeam product in 7080, and that would be a secondary radio that would be attached.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that we were asked, and we appreciate everybody's time. I know everybody has a busy day, and there's different time zones that we're talking to all the way from Europe at the end of their day, and East Coast was at 10, and here on the West Coast, 7 a.m. I think we had fewer here on the West Coast for some reason. Anyway, we will put together this and post it on our YouTube wireless channel for those that you want to share this with. We appreciate everybody's time. And if you have any other questions, please contact sales at sales@lightpointe.com or your sales director if you already know who they are for your particular region. And Brian's available at tech support@lightpointe.com. And feel free to call us for any questions. So thanks again. We appreciate everybody's time today.
Thank you, everyone.